Okay, so for those of you who have been learning Huriyot with us, the theme of Huriyot is Par Helam Davar Shel Tzibor, which is a karban which is brought when the Beit Din makes a mistake in an Isur for which done unintentionally one would chayav karet or chayav mita, and the majority of Klal Yisrael, different ways of interpreting that, as we've seen in the Mishnayot, if they sin. But that's the first parak of Huriyot. But the second parak of Huriyot moves to something which is in this week's parasha in Parak Daled. And that is what happens if the Nasi, which the Gemara will interpret as the Melech, what if he sins? So the Torah tells us that while anybody who sins has to bring by accident. If the Melech sins, so he brings a different sin. So the pasuk tells us as follows: Asher Nasi Yechata. If you want, here, okay. Asher Nasi Yechata. Put in the chat. Vasa Achat Mikol Mitzvot Adonai Elohav Asher Lo Te'asena Bishkaga VeAshem. Ohoda Elav Chatato Asher Chataba. If the Nasi, if the king sins by accident, and he performs any mitzvah, which Chazal will understand is something for which he would be chayav karet or mita b'mezid, and he does it by accident, and his sin is known to him, so he brings a karban. What's his unique karban? It's a sa'ir, a sirizim zachar tamim, and then he goes, he has to lean his hands on the head of the goat, and he slaughters it in the place where the olah is normally slaughtered, etc. So I want to focus on this, and there are really two different themes that are worth focusing on. If we get to both today, great. If not, we'll do one today and one tomorrow. So. The first is as follows. This is from it's a thought that appears in different forms in Rabbeinu Bechaye and in the Netziv, and it goes as follows. If you want to look along, I'll give you the relevant piece from Rabbeinu Bechaye. So Rabbeinu Bechaye says as follows: why is it that in most of this parsha, when we deal with somebody sinning, we say, if they sin, right? If someone sins, which implies that it might not happen. As opposed to in this pasuk where it says, Asher Nasi Yecheta. That's when, right? That case in which a leader sins, so then he has to bring a karban. Right? It sounds like by an individual, we're not sure that he'll make a mistake. Right? If it will happen, so then this is how you would respond. Right? So if you look, for example, above, in Pasuk Chav Zayin, when dealing with the individual, it says, V'im nefesh achat techeta bishkaga me'am ha'aretz. Ba'asota achat mi'mitzvot Adonai asher lo ta'asena ve'ashem. When it comes to a regular person, it's an if-then. If it turns out that somebody sins by accident, so then he brings a karban. But when it comes to the king, the Torah doesn't say that. Asher Nasi Yecheta. When a leader makes a mistake, so then these are the consequences. These are the karbanot that he brings. So Rabbeinu Bechaye has two possibilities, and I want to focus on one. He says, and this is what I've sent you if you want to look at it inside of the chat, Efshar lomar shu lashon vadai. V'lazeh lo nichtav im Nasi Yecheta. When it comes to the leader, there is no if. When it comes to the Kohen Gadol, it's an if. When it comes to the people, it's an if. Why? The Kohen Gadol is very careful about sin. Everyone looks at him as a religious leader. The Sanhedrin, it's not so likely that they're going to sin. These are the religious leaders. And Lefisha Ruach HaKodesh Nosefet Aleim, they have Ruach HaKodesh. Ulefichach Hizkir Bahem Chaton Lashon Safek. So we say the fact that they're going to make a mistake, maybe yes, maybe no. Alval bin Nasi. Hizkir hachet b'lashon vadai. The leader, he's definitely going to sin. Why? Lefisha nasi minasi hizkir hachet b'lashon vadai. Lefisha nasi libo gas ma'od bo. Because leaders are, by definition, they have pride. They have to. Right? They need to. They have authority. And therefore, midana ga'ava, that arrogance, or that at least bit of arrogance that's necessary, or almost intrinsic to leadership, it entails, it is inherent that he will sin. And that's why this fact that we know that leaders are so prone to sin is why we have so many warnings against the king that he should avoid arrogance and hubris. That's why the Nesiim bring that which sits on Aaron's heart. The Nitziv makes a similar point, but he says it slightly differently. Because if you look in the Rabbeinu Bachai, it sounds negative, right? Like leaders are just arrogant people, so they're going to make mistakes. The Nitziv builds on a Sforno, which is slightly different. He says, no, you got it wrong. It's not that he needs to be, that he's arrogant. It's not a negative. This is just a very blunt statement of reality. Right? He says, HaPerush denisiuto goremet shualu lachto. Leadership, by definition, is tied up with mistakes. You can't be a leader and not make mistakes. That's just how it is. And therefore, there's a special karban. And he says, why? Right? He says more than that. It's even the nisiyut goremet lachto baver chamurot kol kach asher lo ta'asena bishkaga. Shein derech lachto b'mafil bishkaga. It's not just that they sin. Leadership leads you to make egregious sins that the normal person wouldn't make by accident. And you think about Tanakh, this is true. Right? Even our good leaders, David HaMelech, makes mistakes that everyone else would say, that person is a rasha, that's unforgivable. And David HaMelech makes these mistakes, and he's still the paradigm of tshuva. And I think, to frame their insight, I would point to a Gemara in Shabbat Nun Hey, where the Gemara says as follows. The Gemara has this theological discussion where it says, Amar Rabbi Ami, Ein mita b'lo chet, ve'ein yisurin b'lo avon. There is no death without sin, and no suffering without sin, without iniquity. So the Gemara goes through several arguments here to say, is that really true? Is that really true? Is it really true that you only die if you sin? So at one point the Gemara has an astonishing line. And the Gemara says, I'll prove to you that you can die without sin. How do I know? V'halo Moshe v'Aharon shekimu kolak Torah kula v'metu. Because Moshe and Aaron kept the entire Torah, and yet they died. So don't you see? So don't you see that you can die without sin? Moshe and Aaron never sinned in their entire life, and yet they died. And then the Gemara says, no, I have a solution. He holds like the position that they did sin. The Tanya, Rabbi Shimon Elazar Omer, Af Moshe v'Aaron b'chetam metu shre'amar yan lo amantem bi ha'amante bi adayin lo higi zmanchem lipater min ha'olam. They hold like the pasuk who says that Moshe and Aaron died because of their sin. So when I was in class in YU many years ago, my first semester in YU, right, Carmi said, what exactly is going on in this Gemara? The Gemara says, Moshe and Aaron never sinned, and therefore they should never have died. Kamash Malan, they died, they never sinned. And the Gemara says, it's a machlokes whether they sinned. And then the Gemara says, how do I know they sinned? Because God says they sinned. They did. Black on white. So what was the Havamina? They knew the Chumash. So Ray Karmi said, what he thinks the Gemara is saying is as follows. Yes, they made a mistake. But leaders make mistakes. Leadership is hard. You cannot be a perfect leader. It is impossible. And therefore, the Gemara had a Havamina that even though they sinned, it's as if they didn't. Because a certain level of mistake is just built in to being a leader. Right? Whether it be David HaMelech, or less extreme, or more or less extreme, depending on how you look at it. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai chose not to ask the Caesar to save the Beit HaMikdash. Was he right? Was he wrong? You'll never know. It's a hard decision. The Gemara says, why didn't he ask to save the Beit HaMikdash? Because he thought the Caesar would say no. Was he right? We don't know. Leadership is hard. And Ray Karmi pointed out that if you continue in the Gemara says there were 4 people who in fact didn't sin. And who were they? Right? Arba metu be'ita shel nachash. There were 4 who only sinned because of the sin of the snake. Who are they? Binyamin ben Yaakov, Amram avi Moshe, Yishai avi David, V'kilav ben David. Right? Binyamin, who we know, the Shevet, Amram Moshe's father, Yishai David's father, and Kilav David's son. And he said, well, what's the common denominator between the 4 people that the Gemara says never sinned? They weren't leaders. They were related to leaders. They were Moshe's father, they were David's father, they were David's son, they were Yaakov's son. But the leaders themselves, Moshe, Yaakov, David, we know they made mistakes. They sinned, they made mistakes. And what's the Gemara trying to teach you? That leaders, to be a leader means you're going to make a mistake. That's the nature of leadership. It's a dangerous job. It's not always clear, right? Like now, right? You see this debate. Are we handling the corona crisis correctly? Or, in the end of the day, are we going to destroy the economy? Is that going to lead to long-term effects? No one really knows which is, in the long term, going to be worse for society. Right? We think, and maybe we're right, and we hope we're right, that this is the course of action that's correct. If it isn't, there will be consequences. Even if we're right, there are consequences. Being a leader entails making mistakes. So the first point to derive from this parsha, and I guess the other idea we'll do tomorrow, is that why does the Torah say, Asher nasiyecheta? So one possibility is like Rabbeinu Bachaya, that leaders tend to be arrogant because they're in charge, so they're going to make a mistake. But the other, the way the Netziv takes it, is much more hard-nosed, just realism, which is, it's not that they're bad people. It's that you want to be a private person, you want to live your own life, it's theoretically possible you'll never make a mistake. You want to be a leader, you want to deal with complicated issues that have consequences for society, you're going to make a mistake. It's going to happen. And therefore, the Torah says, because we know it's inevitable, we give you a special carbon. We give him a special way of being mechaper, because by virtue of the fact that he's a leader, his mistakes are inevitable and therefore unique. So much so that the Gemara can have a havamina that Moshe and Aaron, even though we know they sinned, it's as if they didn't, because it's so built into the nature of leadership that you can't be perfect, that we can have a havamina that maybe it's as if it never happened. So that's the first idea.
I can argue almost that it's a combination of the two, because if you say that it's inevitable, then in a way we can't hold you responsible if it's inevitable, so you wouldn't have to bring anything. But on the other hand, there is also still that arrogance. I think
it could be, right? Meaning it could be. You could say, but again, right, that may be the tension in the Gemara. Then on the one hand, we know they're going to sin, and therefore maybe they're not culpable, but really they are. Right? That's the maskana. They really are. They did sin. Right? It may be inevitable. So what do? We give them a special carbon. I mean, it's inevitable. So we have a remedy for them, which is unique to leaders. But it's hard to say with Moshe, where the Torah says he's Anam Mikol Adam, that the reason he sinned is because he had arrogance. That's a hard thing to say for sure. right? I mean, you could say he became the most humble of people, but at that point, there was an expression of arrogance. It could be. But the Torah itself calls him an Anav. So I'm not 100% sold on it. Okay, so we'll end with that idea. We'll do the Amud Yomi in 3 minutes. Tomorrow I'll do another idea on this, following the Gemara actually in Hurriyut itself. On Daf Yud, there's another perspective that emerges from this.